Hello everybody, welcome back to BareRose Garage. What's going on today? Well, you can see I'm out here throwing darts around. That's right. BareRose Garage has gone Mopar or insane, one of the two, or possibly both. As you've seen on my channel started out with Chevy. Then I played with the Jeep there a little bit, and Ford. Well, most of you guys know me for Ford, FoMoCo stuff. Well, in all honesty, I love them all. I have no brand. I'm not brand loyal. I'm wallet loyal, just like I showed in my opening video to my home channel here. So let's deep dive into Mopar. That's right, Mopar or no car, right? I personally hate that statement because it just kind of limits you to what you can do. Anyway, so let's look at Mopar from the viewpoint of somebody who, let's say a Ford guy or well, let's just broaden that all the way out. A FoMoCo guy or a GM guy. What would they look at if they're looking at one of these freaky little oddities like this little 65 Dodge Dart GT? Now, full disclaimer, I've had very little experience with these little guys here. They're not too popular around here, and well, after I got this thing up on the lift, I can find out why they're not so popular and why there's not many of them around anymore. So bear with me on this one. Like I said, this video is how the other guys would look at Mopar. And I'll tell you right now, everything bad about Mopar makes them good. And let's just cut to the meat and taters and take a look at this little guy. Here we go. Mopar through the view of the other guys. Okay, here we go. Let's deep dive into this freaky little thing. First things first, this is a unibody car. What's a unibody car mean? Well, it means there's no frame. The body is the frame of the car. Now, the drawback on a unibody car is that everything has to be intact in order for it all to hold together, because everything on this car is structural. Even the roof is part of the frame that holds the whole thing together. The whole foundation of the car is the body itself. So unibodies are a little bit different to play with. Personally, I don't like unibody cars. I like body on frame, but it is what it is. So, and it's what Chrysler is known for, Mopar. So let's dive in. Well, for those of you who are not really familiar with what is a unibody car. Okay, number one, the rockers. Everybody knows the rockers. And when it comes to a unibody car, you really want to pay attention to the rockers. The bottom part of the car all the way down. Why is that? That is the main frame of the car. Now, underneath, you'll see, let's start in the back here. See if I can get that light turned. There, let's go like that. Okay, you can see on the, it's got a typical, what you would think of as a frame. Comes up here, but it attaches to the body. You see, in the body shop, we would call these hat rails. Why is that? Because they look like a top hat that's turned upside down. You can see the top hat shape right there. It's kind of a hat, top hat design. Up like, or the hat is upside down, stuck up on here, and it's welded with spot welds to the body of the car. Okay, enough of that. Goes up there, all the way back to the back bumper. This is all the rear frame rail of the car. Comes over here to the spring shackle mount, jumps over to here and ties in to the rocker. And the rocker is the main frame of the car, comes over to the tranny support, the tranny cross member. This is what ties these two outer frame rails, if you want to call them that, which is what they are. It's what ties them together so they don't expand and contract, so it keeps them rigid. You'll always find that in your tranny cross member. Now in this you can see where it's attached to the outer frame rail, comes across, and then it's got the bolt out piece that you can drop out here to pull the transmission out and let the transmission drop out the bottom. Ties it all together over to the other frame rail. Then you can see it double times out here. Then you got, just like in the rear, you got your front frame support here, your front frame horn, what you would call. Okay, so it comes up and it double ties. It's using this splash apron to come across and tie into the front part of the frame rail. Now the reason it does that is because this is a hardtop car. You can trace that all the way up to the cowl of the car, to the A-pillar, which rolls the roof line all the way back. It's using all of that as a support of the car to keep it from bending like this at the cowl, so that car can't do this. Plus your inner fenders right inside of there on the front end, they're welded to the frame rail. So the inner fenders are actually part of the car. So as your force on the front suspension is going up and down, it's keeping that front frame rail there from going up and down like that. Your front frame rails come all the way out, come all the way up to the front bumper. Now the reason they trace through the front bumper is because if you get hit in the front there, it transfers all of that energy all the way back to the back of the car, absorbs all that energy. Now a regular body on frame car does the exact same thing. It's just a rigid frame, separate frame that goes all the way down. And then the body is actually bolted to it all the way up. Pickups are all still, well, there's a few exceptions, but pickups are all body on frame because they're stronger. They're heavier, but they're stronger. Now, what ties these two together is the infamous K-member. Why they call it a K-member? Because if you look straight at it like that, it kind of makes the letter K. Here, they bolt in up here, and you got this main support that goes all the way over and ties to the other side. Then it crosses over to, well, it doesn't cross under, but it crosses over to the main support for your lower control arm, for your front suspension. Excuse me. Comes back up together and ties that all in and makes the front end, the front frame up here, very strong. Keeps it from going like this as that front end, as your suspension's all working and everything. Ties everything into the frame. So that much of it is actually really standard across the board. GM, FoMoCo, Mopar. It's all pretty close to all the same. Now, Chevy, they have what's called a subframe underneath them. Now on theirs, their subframe comes way back here like this. Oh, clear back into here. And it's a heavy, thin. It gets really thin back here. But it's a thin, flat, heavy gauge steel chunk of framework that comes all the way up. Well, let's see, let's do it on this side here. There we go. On a Chevy, it's a big heavy frame section that comes up here, and then it bolts to the body of the car. You got big bolts that run up through like this that you can undo, and the whole front of the whole subframe drops out of the car. Okay. On a Ford, well, they have multiples, so Ford kinda looks like this on a Mustang. The thing is with the Mustang though, that I am seeing right here, so this is where the video will dive into the differences between Mopar, FoMoCo, and GM. Now on a Mustang, especially the fastbacks, I know because you can see over there on my shelf the little Mustang right there. Yeah, I had a 66 Mustang fastback, and well, in the car world, Mustangs, they sold millions of them. So you tend to, they're still around, and you tend to work on a few of them. So what is the difference in here between Mopar and Mustang? Well, on a Ford, that would be about that wide. They're huge, monstrous. And this, especially on the fastbacks and the convertibles, like on Kiwi's videos, he just did a convertible Mustang. I recommend go check him out. I'll put a link to his channel here somewhere. He just replaced all of this front frame section in a Mustang. They're huge. It almost encompasses this whole area, and the steel on them is thick. It's still stamped steel, but it's thick. Whew. In this little Mopar, I'll tell you right now, the thickness of this frame is smaller, thinner than that 58 Ford fender. That's right, very light gauge. Well, it's not very light gauge, but it's lighter than the fenders on a Ford. The main frame on this little Mopar is built out of lighter stuff than the basic sheet metal on a Ford, on the 58 Ford. It's all relying on the angles and the way it's all connected in here. Also, on the GMs, like the Camaros and the Novas, the inner fenders come out. On the Mopars, they don't. They're all, you can see they're spot welded. They're spot welded all the way in. So you can't take the inner fenders out on here. You can't. It's all part of the car. Oh, and getting to the spot welds, holy cow. I'll tell you what, when I worked at the restoration shop, one of my jobs in there was drilling spot welds. And Mopar would have been a dream car. I see why a lot of you Mopar guys are also body and fender kind of oriented people. These spot welds are miles apart from each other. There's one there. There's one there. That far apart. Now, why do I bring that up? If that was a Ford, those spot welds would be stacked on top of each other. Yeah, you would be into this hours, if not days, drilling spot welds on a Mustang. On this little Dart, they're 1.5 miles apart. Well, they're not that far, but you get the idea. Minimal. Which brings me to the other part of this car. Looking at it from underneath here, there is absolutely nothing under this car that doesn't have to be here. Again, if this was a Ford, everything on here would be braced and braced and braced again. And they brace it with heavy steel, big stuff. Everything on it is over-engineered, built Ford tough. Mopar? Absolutely not. Here we have the main seat supports. That's what these are. This is what holds you in the car. Holds the seat down in the car. This is the seat brace. It's just, like I said, look at there. I can bend it with my hand. It's very light gauge steel, held together with 1, 2. Yeah, there ain't even one on this side. It's too much undercoating on there. Just a piece of bent sheet metal that holds your seat in. Wow. This one right here has been bumped. You can see, and it bent it. It probably wasn't much of a bump either. I'll have to straighten that out. Then on this side, they just run them through the body. Now that sounds crazy, like it's not structural, but you look at this bead roll right here, and that the angle comes in here for the transmission hump. So that is actually stronger than what it looks like. But yeah, that's what holds you in. Those little tiny little bolts. and they're small. Again, if this was a Ford, that'd be a 5/8 socket at least. Crazy. But that's what makes it light. And in the racing world, less weight means faster down the track. Yeah. What Chrysler here sacrificed in durability, they made up for in speed. I can't get a car any lighter than this stock. This little dart wants to move. This little dart wants to move fast. I just got to figure out now what she wants in there to make her fast. Wow, this blew me away. This is just a support that comes over and for your e-brake. It's a cable guide. That's all it is. It just keeps your emergency cable all in line. You can see here's it's kind of got a roller there that keeps it all back over to the rear wheel. Light gauge stuff. And again, this is just spot welded into the body. Light gauge stuff. If this was a Ford, that would be a boxed channel piece, and it would be made to hold 10 tons. Mopar? Nope, good enough. Oh, I can see why these things just would not last, because two things. Number one, they're ultra light and ultra cheap. Yeah, this is one cheap built car. I've had Geo Metros up on the lift, and I'll tell you what, a Geo Metro has got more structural integrity than this Mopar. But before you start snapping away at the keyboard saying, oh, this and that and this and that, Geo Metros are junk, this is a Mopar, I get you, I understand you. That's what makes Mopar good. They are so cheaply built that they're fast. I get it. I understand what you guys are all on about. What makes Mopar bad? In durability and longevity, makes them prime targets, and probably one of the best things you could start with to build a race car out of. You can't get any lighter than this just by throwing some money down and buying a stock car. I looked under here to look at anything I might have to take out of it. There's nothing here I have to take out. It's already been taken out. I don't know how they acid dip these things, because these things are light. They're already light enough. So let's get to the front end of it. The K-member, again, ultra light stuff. Everything on it. I would never build a chassis out of steel that is that light. Wow. The drawback of it is that K-member. I don't know. I've got a 318 I could drop in here, and I might do that. Even a stock 318 would haul butt in this car, because there's no weight here. Let's check the front wheel to center line. Okay, there we go, side to side. Whoa, that's an issue. Huh. I'll have to figure that out. What I'm checking for is, you look from the ball joint to the bottom ball joint, and where it ends up, that's a slant 6 in there. But I can kind of visualize where that 318 would sit in there. They do set forward into the, for weight transfer. God, a Chevy would look good in there. Boy, I know I just lit up a bunch of Mopar guys, but I know where a Mustang 2, well, it's actually a Pinto, is sitting right now that I could pick up on the way cheap. If I could drop that K-member out of there and stick that Ford in there, she just might run that. She just might have that. Or a 302 Ford out of an E-Series van. Now, Ford also did that oils. I got a big block one right there. I don't know how well you can see it, but you've probably seen it in my other videos. Ford also put the sump just like Chrysler, but they only did it in their E-Series, the vans, because they had to go forward and around their suspension system. And I would almost bet dimes for dollars that a Ford would fit right in here. A 302 out of a E-Series, with a E-Series oil sump, oil pan. I don't know. I'm going to look into it. Up front there is all kinds of clearance and all kinds of room, because this is a slant 6 that's in this car. You can see they left a lot of room to play with up front. So that's my video here on the 65 Dodge Dart. Some of the beginnings of what the other guys look at when they look at these freaky little Mopar things. So stay tuned on these freaky little Mopar things. So that'll wrap it up for this video. In the meantime, get out there and get some metal hot, and Stay tuned. This little dart, I don't know. She might just turn into a 1965 Dodge Fart. We'll catch you on the next one.